Hello, welcome to the Midweek Message for this week. Let me just pull it up on the screen and I'll share with you my thoughts for what's going on in the lectionary and what's going on in our church community. All right. So this Sunday marks the end of our church year. So it's kind of like our New Year's Eve week in the lectionary and in the life and the rhythm of the church. And next Sunday, November 28th, will herald the beginning of a new cycle in the life and seasons of the church with the beginning of Advent. Cool, you might say, but what difference does that really make to me? And I would challenge you to think about the subversive and the redemptive nature of marking the seasons of the Spirit in our church year as an antidote to what we mark in our civic calendar. Because for all the hustle in the regular calendar to push you in a one direction only, success driven, market driven, hurry up and get there, hurry up and succeed kind of way, we do know and mark other kinds of time in our life. And I find especially those seasons of the Spirit to be a redemptive and thought-provoking antidote to what society tells us to mark, the occasions to mark. So we know our calendar also as a way, of course, to mark the seasons. And we live into various types of calendars. For example, for years I was living into an academic calendar to become qualified to do this job. Or when it's tax season, we talk about the end of our fiscal years, or we look forward to our retirement years, for example, or our family years, which is, very meaningful for most of us, or our professional years, also a meaningful thing to mark. So these are all ways that we mark the things that are meaningful and formative and relevant in the everyday dealings of our lives. So when it comes to these meaningful and formative ways of keeping and commemorating our lives, how do we prioritize and cultivate our faith, our spiritual lives, the inner life of our mind and our heart and our spirit? So, Sister Joan Chittister, she is a wonderful writer. In her book, The Liturgical Year, The Spiraling Adventure of the Spiritual Life, she says this about that. She says, the liturgical year is the year that sets out to attune the life of the Christian to the life of Jesus, the Christ. It proposes year after year to immerse us over and over again into the sense and substance of the Christian life until eventually we become what we say we are. I love that. Eventually we become what we say we are, followers of Jesus, all the way to the heart of God. Oh, I love that. Immersing us over and over into the sense and substance of the Christian life until eventually we become what we say we are, followers of Jesus, all the way to the heart of God. That is beautiful. What a beautiful, beautiful and thought-provoking idea. The liturgical year is an adventure in human growth, an exercise in spiritual ripening, she says. Like the rings on a tree, the cycles of Christian feasts are meant to mark the levels of our spiritual growth from one stage to another in the process of human growth. They add layer after layer to the meaning of life, to the sense of what it entails to live beyond the immediate and into the significant dimensions of human existence. And I think that's what I was trying to say at the beginning, that our regular calendars mark what is immediate in our lives, but our faith calendar, our spiritual calendar marks what more significant and more formative dimensions of human existence. So our spiritual liturgical calendar actually gives us this welcome reorientation to the rhythms of the Spirit, to the priorities of God who is love, as we mark other kinds of time and experience in other ways on other calendars. So, beloved church family, I like you to consider how important this really is to the health and vigor of you as a whole person, body, mind, and spirit, and of course also to our community. One of the things I find redemptive and subversive about this is the reminder to refocus on the things that God finds important, to nurture my spiritual life, to nurture your spiritual life, and the life of our spiritual community, as much as I prioritize the outer and more mundane and immediate calendars. that I mark. It reminds me to balance, to learn and grow in more ways than the physical or psychological. It is also a welcome rhythm that I have come to love. So, when I was a kid, well, one thing when I was a kid, my mom and dad used to always say, you have to require something of your body, your mind, and your spirit every day. And I say that to my kids all the time, and I do try to live that. But growing up as a PK, a preacher's kid, was challenging. When my family moved from one pastoral charge to another, and I was missing my friends in old schools and struggling to make friends in a new one, there was still this beautiful life that I could count on, and that was the life and the seasons of the church year of Advent, Christmas, and Lent and Easter. And those things, no matter where we were, remained the same. And they reminded me that there was more to life than school or work. And it also reminded me that there was more to me than school or work. That was a redemptive calendar. Going back to church was a place where I was reminded, especially, like when you're in school and people are mean on the playground, or you're in university, or you're working and you're trying to make sense of a world that, isn't always kind. There was a place that reminded me that that was partly my choice. That the seasons of the church remind us of who and how we are to be in the world, and they remind us over and over of what God is hoping for our world, and how we as God's hands and feet can make a difference. So it's a really proactive place to go back to, and to be reminded that we can help those situations. So back to Joan Chittister, this wonderful author. She says, it is what we do routinely and not what we do rarely that delineates the character of a person. I'm going to read you that again because that is important. It is what we do routinely, not what we do rarely, that delineates the character of a person. It is what we believe in the heart of us that determines what we do daily. It is what we bring to the nourishment of the soul that predicts the kind of soul we nurture. It's what we do ordinarily, day by day, that gives an intimation of what we will do under stress. It is the daily, the way we act ordinarily, not rarely, that defines us as either kind or angry or faithful or constant. That from Joan Chittister is also from the same book, a worthy book to read. You would love it. And you'll hear more about it during Advent, of course. So, as we celebrate the end of our church year this week, I want you to think about how important our church year actually is, and how proactive it can make you in the world, and what it reminds you and who it reminds you to be, and how what you choose every day is really who you are. So, as we move into the new year of our church season with Advent next week, I hope that we will intentionally embrace and be enriched by the gifts the church seasons have to offer us, and to go out and be a blessing to those who need the reorientation toward blessing, toward spirit, and toward love. So with that, I would like to close the midweek reflection this week with a poem by one of my favorite poets, Jan Richardson. And she starts with this beautiful verse from Matthew 25, 35 to 40. It says, "Come, you who are blessed," Jesus says, "for I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me." I love that one because it always reminds me of having to move from one pastoral charge to the other. Thank you to those who welcomed me. "I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you took care of me. I was in prison and you visited me." So Matthew 25, 35 to 40. And Jan Richardson, whose the name of her poem is, the title is "You Who Bless." You who are yourselves a blessing, who to know that to feed the hungering is to bless, and to give drink to those who thirst is to bless, who know the blessing in welcoming the stranger, and giving clothes to those who have none, who know to care for the sick is blessing, and blessing to visit the prisoner. May the blessing that you have offered now turn itself toward you, to welcome and to embrace you at the feast of the blessed. Thank you, Jen Richardson, for your beautiful, beautiful poetry. So until next week, and in this together with you, as always, Reverend Stephanie signing off.